Hello, and welcome to Law Talk. My name is John Celebrezze, and I'm the co-founder of the Celebrezze Zanghi Community Legal Education Project, as we call it, CZ-CLEP for short. Our organization provides continuing education about the judiciary and legislature to attorneys, judges, government officials, and the general public. As a career educator, I recognize early on how important legal matters are and how they impact our lives. I am the nephew of the late Anthony J. Celebrezze, who was the popular 5-term mayor of Cleveland and a member of President Kennedy's cabinets. As a tribute to his lifetime commitment to the legal process, we dedicate this show. Our guest today is Wadsworth Municipal Court Judge Stephen McIlvaine. Judge McIlvaine was appointed to his position by Governor George Voinovich. In 1997, he was elected for the unexpired term and was re-elected in 2000 and 2006. The judge is a member of the Ohio Supreme Court Judicial College and is also a member of the Medina County Bar Association and the Association of Municipal County Judges of Ohio. Judge McIlvaine did his undergraduate work at Muskingum College and earned his law degree at the Ohio Northern College of Law. He is married to wife Sarah and has 2 sons, Jacob and Alexander. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for being with us. Judge, I can't pass this opportunity up. Being the nephew of Anthony J. Celebrezze and who we dedicated this show to, a Ohio Northern graduate himself, going back to the 1930s.
Yep.
In
fact, it's probably partly due to him. Ohio Northern is kind of known as the law school of judges.
That's pretty interesting. I've heard that said before. And you think my uncle's impact?
I think definitely had an impact on that.
Well, that's quite a legacy. So again, thank you for being here, and
it's my pleasure.
And recognizing what our whole program is all about. My uncle, as you know, was a federal judge and was a strong supporter of legal education. So we continue the tradition through our show. Had he lived this Thursday, Judge, he would have been 99 years old. So next year we'll celebrate a 100-year birthday for Uncle Tony.
Excellent.
Judge, we may have a little misnomer here today. I got my clipboard out with some questions for you, like I usually do for our guests. But I'm the one that sort of dubs the shows as to the topic.
Okay.
And I call this one drunk driving. But from some preliminary discussions with you, we may have a bit of a misnomer here, because my first question, what does it mean to be driving while impaired? And I think many of our viewers and many of us always seem to think, what does it mean to be drunk driving?
Yeah.
So there's a distinction here, right?
Yes, there is. Actually, the statute that we deal with under 4511.19 of the Ohio Revised Code deals with operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol. And the term under the influence of alcohol is defined. It's a defined term, and this is the actual definition I give to a juror. So let me just read it to you.
Please.
Okay? I'll tell the juror that by definition, under the influence of alcohol means that they consumed some alcohol, whether mild or potent, in such a quantity, whether small or great, that it adversely affected and noticeably impaired their actions, reactions, or mental processes under the circumstances then existing, and deprived himself of that clearness of intellect and control of himself which he would otherwise have possessed. In these cases, the question is not how much alcohol an individual consumed. The question is, what effect did any alcohol have on the person at the time and place involved? So, as I indicated, it's not just the consumption of alcohol. It has to affect their nervous system, their brain, their muscles, so that it impairs to a noticeable degree their ability to operate a vehicle. So when you say drunk driving, we've all picture a drunk in our mind.
That's
falling down.
Right.
That's not what it is. As by that definition, I know that's tough to follow, but it's just impairment. You don't have to be falling down. You don't have to be stumbling. If you have enough alcohol that it's going to impair noticeably, that it's the effect is noticeable by the eye. then that could be a violation of this section. So it's not just drunk driving. And also, when you and I were talking the other day, you said, well, is this more than just alcohol? Well, yes, it's not limited to alcohol. The section talks about you can't use alcohol or drugs of abuse or combination thereof. So when we talk about, obviously, if you drink too much and it impairs your driving, that could be a violation. But if you're taking drugs, now obviously this covers the whole schedule of drugs that you would think of.
Sure.
The illegal drugs. Obviously schedules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But this also covers prescriptions. So let's say you have a prescription. If you take that prescription and it impairs your driving, you could violate this statute, even though you take it according to the doctor's orders. Okay. Now, if you take your medication prescription and drink alcohol with it, that combination can be deadly.
Yeah, that's deadly there.
So you might say, well, I've had a drink before and it doesn't affect me. Well, yes, but now you're taking your medication with it. That can be a deadly combination. What other people don't also realize is, by definition, drugs of abuse, okay? That's what the call says, alcohol, drugs of abuse, or combination. By definition, drugs of abuse can also cover over-the-counter drugs. So you could buy over-the-counter drugs, and if you take them in excess of the recommended dosage, and it impairs you, you could violate this section. So people need to be aware that it's not just alcohol or drugs as we, like the Oxycontin and the heroin. No, it can be prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs, if misused, or put in combination with alcohol, could all violate this section.
So, and we'll leave it and get into the specifics in a minute, but one last thing I guess I would say about that, Judge, and it's all done for the good of the cause, but when we see these public service spots where the motorcyclist has alcohol coming out of his helmet and the guy rolls down his window.
Car's filled with beer.
It's just, right. I mean, just suggesting this could only be alcohol, but that's
those are good commercials because it calls attention to the seriousness of the problem. But you're right. It really overplays the degree that someone has to get to violate the statute. It doesn't. You don't have to be drunk or intoxicated. It's under the influence, and that's the language in the section. Under the influence of alcohol or drugs of abuse.
Good stuff to know, Judge, because I would agree. I mean, anything we can do to call attention to this is fine, but those spots clearly suggest you've got to be falling down drunk. And we certainly hope our viewers come away from this with a different perspective.
There's a distinction, yes.
Certainly, it sounds like it's not only is it a distinction, it's a very fine distinction.
Yes, it can
and as Judge, you are a duty-bound jury in a trial, so that's excellent information. Judge, are there differences in the punishment for the results of, like we'd say, a low or a high test for this?
Yes, there are. We just talked about impaired driving.
Right.
That's one section of the law. It's illegal in Ohio to drink if the alcohol or drugs are going to impair your driving. But it's not illegal to drink and drive in Ohio. I mean, you're allowed to have a drink if the alcohol you drink does not impair you or if you're tested under a certain limit. Okay, so this is what we call a prohibited blood alcohol concentration charge. And that is, in Ohio, you have to test over a 0.08. Now, a 0.08 means percent of alcohol per 200 liters of breath. It's a chemical formula. Yeah. So when people out there hear, well, he took a test. He tested over under the limit. 0.08 is the limit.
Okay.
And there's also another tier. Ohio created what they call a second tier, a high tier or high test. If you test a 0.17, then your penalties are increased. So we have two levels, 0.08 and 0.17. If you test a 0.17, then you're looking at more jail, more restrictions for maybe restrictive license plates, and the penalties are increased. And also then, well, we'll get to refusals later. Yeah. There's ramifications for that as well.
A 0.17, Judge, is a long ways from